Hey, good afternoon. We are again here. We are again here talking with a woman in science. And this is a very, very happy week because, this week we have, for the first time, two Nobel Prize that it was woman in chemistry. We have another one in physics. So this is showing that we are growing as a woman in science and doing very good progress. And as part of it, this is our last series of Women in Science here in our webinar. And I'm so happy that I can close this webinar with these important researches in the area of ruminants. That is Professor Christine Girard. Thank you so much for your time. And Hélène Leclerc, thank you so much for you to be here. So we're going to start as always. If you are attending, just let your questions, and I can do these questions for these ladies here. So don't be afraid, put your questions and I will do it. And from now, we're going to start with Dr. Girard. And I'm going to ask you, and following by Elaine, why B vitamins? Because when I was a student, and it was long ago, and I'm vet, so I learned that for ruminants we don't need to thinking about the B vitamins. Why bring you to think? Yes, this could be interesting. So thank you once again for your time, and then we have time to talk your experience in research and in B vitamins.
So, like you, I learned that there's no need to supplement B vitamin to ruminants because the rumen microbiota is able to produce enough B vitamin to avoid deficiency symptoms. So it is still true, but the problem is that in animal production, we don't want to feed the animal to avoid deficiency. We want to feed the animal to maintain or improve their health and to improve their efficiency. We want the animal to produce more with the nutrients that we are providing them. So this is far from deficiency. So it is the reason why I start to be interested in B vitamins. B vitamins are very different. There are 8 B vitamins. They are very different from each other. They have very different roles, but all of them, they share a common role, which is a coenzyme in metabolic reaction. So when the metabolic, you are talking about cow, dry cow, not gestating, the metabolism is running at a low rate. But when we are talking about lactating cow, high producing dairy cows, gestating cows, the metabolism, the rate, metabolic rate increase. So when you increase the metabolic rate, you increase the need for the coenzyme in the metabolic reaction because you increase the number of metabolic reaction per minute or per hour or per day as you prefer. So up in the rumen microbiota, they are producing their B vitamin, the B vitamin for their own metabolism. They are not producing thinking, oh, the cow is producing more milk, so I should produce more B vitamin. So it is likely that in some condition, feeding or management condition, the B vitamin produced by the rumen microbiota is the amount produced are lower than the amount needed by the cow to maintain an optimal metabolism. And I like the comparison that B vitamins are like oil in a gear. So the gear could still turn if you don't have a lot of oil in the gear, but it will take more strength to turn the gear. But if it's where you have enough oil, then it will turn easily,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will be more efficient because you will need more strength. And it's the same with B vitamin. If you don't have enough coenzyme, then the reaction will not stop. So you will not have a deficiency. But the reaction will slow down just in accordance to the supply in B vitamin and coenzyme. So it's the reason why it is logical to think that if the metabolic rate increase, then you need to increase also the supply in B vitamin. And in some condition, maybe the rumen microbiota is not producing enough to meet the supply, the needs. This
Thank
is
you,
the reason why.
Hélène. Hélène,
Yeah.
let us know your experience from B vitamins, because I know that you have been working hard in this too, in field and many countries in the planet talking about this. Why? What is your experience? A little bit for us, for understand how you grow up in this area and why B vitamins. When you start to think that B vitamins it's really important.
Okay. Well, thanks, Elizabeth. Actually, yeah, it's a very good question. Uh, Before I joined JEFO, which was in 2011, I work as a nutritionist, animal nutritionist. I was doing mainly dairy, but I was doing also a little bit of monogastric. And still at that time, I knew about B vitamins for swine, okay, for monogastrics, and in order to meet requirements to not get any deficiency. But as far as ruminants, dairy and even beef, it was I was still not believe I was told at that time that it was not required because of ruminal supply, like how Christian explained very well. So when I joined JEFO in 2011, uh, I learned about the concept of B vitamins. I saw all the very interesting results and research that was started with that company even in almost 20 years ago in 2002 with Jean Fontaine, who came with that new concept with his curiosity and investing in research, and they were doing a lot of field trial, control trial, and I saw all the article, the research, and also the results in the field. And also very importantly, I started reading about all the work that Dr. Girard did with her team on folic acid and B12. And so I got really, let's say, passionate because I'm just passionate about nutrition. So B vitamins was a new concept for me, even at that time. So since then, yes, I'm involved a lot with we did a lot of research also from those years. And even within a research project with Dr. Girard and Dr. Francois Richard, looking at the follicle development. So very like specific to try to understand mode of action. So I'm going to stop because I could talk like
All afternoon.
all
I saw
afternoon.
that. Yeah, I love when I saw this passion in research, because I think that we are moved by passion like this. It's not nobody's talking about this, but then we start to talk like Dr. Girard just said. So as I understood from you, it's like this old concept that the animal doesn't need the B vitamins is related to the visions of the animals that was not as productive that we have now. Now we have a productive animal, they have more demand, and if you can supply, you're gonna make the life easier for the animal to produce and to have our this demand attained. Well, I'm not a ruminant research. I'm learning here with you, and I'm so happy. And one thing that we observe is that well, this concept that we cannot need, we don't need B vitamins is because the rumen microorganism produces these B vitamins. So Hélène, to complement it, I know that you have this long experience with protected B vitamins. Do you have something else to complement what your field experience with it in different countries? What it's the advantage of protections that you saw?
Yeah, well, what we found is that if you need a very good protection technology to make sure that the vitamins, the B vitamins, will not be degraded in the rumen, and so you need to test the technology to make sure that it has a good protection and a good intestinal digestibility. And yes, in order to prevent like rumen degradation, as Dr. Girard explained, we found that having a protection technology will be more practical in the field. So you can give it in the diet every day, so the cow will get a constant supply. And so it's a very practical way, because we see still a lot of dairy producers that are injecting some B vitamins around calving time, after calving, but injections is very stressful for the animal, and also like most of those vitamins are water soluble, so you will have to inject many times. So it's really not practical and very stressful for the animal. So we found that it was a good way to protect really the from rumen degradations. And we have many studies, peer-reviewed studies, and control field trials showing that the cow will respond to it. So if you get a good, if you get an optimum, like more milk, we see more milk, better health, better repro, better efficiency. So if you see all those response, I would say that yes, those cows need more D vitamins. And the idea is not to feed the rumen microbe, but to feed directly the cow.
Yeah, we have some questions here that people, when subscribe, ask us, and one is like
Sorry.
the requirements. Hélène, what's your experience with this? I saw that you did a peer review recently. You published that, right? What's your experience with the supplementation?
As far as you're talking about milk productions and components, actually we just presented this summer at ADSA a very large meta-analysis where we had 65 studies from 8 countries. And this was with a blend of rumen protected B vitamins. So yes, we had folic acid and B12, but also other B vitamins. And in all those different studies where we have different environments, diets, managements, we saw an increase in the milk yield, 0.9 kilo more, and more fat and protein yield. So yes, we see, even if the response, if you look at each study, the response was not exactly the same. If you look at the average of the meta-analysis, we see a very positive response. In some occasions, we got, in some farms or studies, we got higher response, and some a little bit lower. But the confidence interval was between 0.6 and 1.17, if I remember well. So still very constant response as far as milk. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I understand that for all kind of supplementation of vitamins, this happens also in humans, right? In another species, depends of how much is your deficiency. The supplementation will give you better or lower. And Dr. Girard, I understand that. Hélène, in your opinion, in your experience, not opinion, because you have more than opinion, you have experience in that. In your experience, what is the most important time that you think that the supplementation of these B vitamins could bring advantage for the farmers?
Well, the time where we see like a very strong response is really during the transition period. So those cows are really under high, like a very big change in metabolic changes. Liver function is really not the best. You have the immunity kind of challenge.
Demand.
demands increase when she start producing milk, cholesterons. So yes, and we designed actually a different formula just for that period. But really, this is a period where we see really a very strong response as far as health. Even we're gonna see if you improve if we supply those vitamins during the transition period, we even see a positive response in reproduction. So it will be kind of a carryover effect, and also on milk production. So this is a very challenge time where the cow are more stressed. And this is really the most critical period.
Yes,
So
sorry.
we have many people here, and you have Dr. José Arce Cordeiro. He sent regards to two of you and say that it's a very interesting conversation. And he asked it.
So
It's a kind of time. So, Hélène,
response during stressful periods.
Yeah.
Hélène, do you want
I can maybe add? Can I add something? Yeah. Yes. Really interesting what Christian is saying, and I will add also like heat stress. Like it's also really affecting. Like we saw that very strong response during heat stress when cows also are eating less. And this is really interesting too, because we have our own model to develop, like in order to develop some formula and to see what would be the requirements, the supply. And as Christian explained on dry matter intake, this is also what we found out, that dry matter intake was really the main parameter, let's say, that will impact the supply. I just would like to add maybe a comment or maybe a question also for Christian. Is about, we talk about supply, but what about requirements?
Yes, this is
it really depends. It will be in the formula, like requirements minus supply will give you the response.
So from now, I would like to ask two of you to give like for us, for all the audience, what is your final message, like take home message about the use of B vitamins in ruminants?
There are so many things. But I think that it will be, especially at the present time when we are looking at the best way to use the nutrients that we are feeding the animal to decrease the losses in the environment. I think that B vitamins, which improve the metabolic efficiency, improve the utilization of the nutrients by the animal, is really should really be studied more in depth. I think that we have some answers, but we need more. There's a lot of questions that we can't answer right now, or we have just in sometimes we when people ask, should I give the supplement or not? The only answer is try it and see what will happen in your condition, because we can't define the condition right now. But I think that if we continue the research on this topic, we will be able to really improve metabolic efficiency, and it will have an effect on the cow health, on the cost for the producer, and it will have also reduce also the losses in the environment. And so it could only be beneficial.
Thank you so much for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening.